Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Self Ruled. I am your host, Hannah Holden. How are you feeling today? I hope you're doing well. I'm glad to have you here. If this is your first time listening to the podcast or if you're coming back, welcome. I hope you're having a great day, whatever time of the day you may be listening. I am feeling pretty grateful today because it's warm here in Minnesota. We're experiencing a little bit of a warm up. It's about 29 degrees right now and it's going to get up to 42 today. So I am looking forward to being able to get out and about and move around without feeling like I'm freezing. So that's what I'm grateful for today. But I'm also grateful for the topic that I'm going to be talking about today. This is something that is near and dear to me. Actually, obviously a lot of my content is, but today I want to talk about your life outside your comfort zone. And so we all have our comfort zone, right? The bubble we live in, where we feel safe. This could be in terms of our lifestyle, our career, our relationships, maybe the foods we eat, the places we go. Comfort zone can be a whole lot of things. But I also know that as humans, there are times when we feel called or we feel pulled to step out of our comfort zone. And I think that this can look very different for different people. Some people leap out of that comfort zone and they take on large amounts of risk and are very adventurous. And for other people, maybe who prioritize more stability, security, safety, those steps might look a little bit smaller. But either way, if you have desires for your life that feel a little edgy or feel a little bit, out of reach, or like they could be a struggle to reach for, that is likely because they will require you to leave that comfort zone that you've established. And there are a lot of types of discomfort in life. And I think when it comes to stepping outside of our comfort zone and experience discomfort, there's a lot of fear that can come with that. Fear of being exposed in some way. This idea that everyone's watching what you're doing, watching, judging, something like that. Could be the fear of rejection. So it might be that I won't belong or be accepted if I do this. And given that we're such tribal beings, this one makes a lot of sense because maybe there's a way that we're living, behaving, our values, our beliefs, our actions that are tied to others because that's all we know, or those are the people that we've associated with for a long time. So we're scared that if we do something different, we're going to be rejected by people. There's also can be a fear of failure. So I think this one is, what if I can't do it? What if I quit? Could be a fear of suffering. It might just be, well, what if it's too hard? Or what if it costs me too much? I'm not sure if I'm willing to give up what it's going to take. It could be a fear around scarcity. What if I won't have enough? So maybe if it's something to do with finances or resources, there's a fear of losing or not having enough. The truth is, we all like to be comfortable. That is just part of human nature. That is the way we're wired to seek and sustain comfort as much as we can. I mean, it's a survival mechanism. Think about our ancestors going out and trying to get as much food as possible for themselves, for their young. So we like to be comfortable. But I don't think I have to tell you that comfort is killing a lot of us, and that could be mentally, physically, emotionally. There is so much immediate gratification in our daily lives, especially in countries like the US where I live. We have everything at our fingertips. We have food delivery at our fingertips. We have vehicles, so we don't have to move as much. We drive places. We have screens, technology. I mean, the list is endless. There's a lot of things around us trying to make our lives as easy and comfortable as possible. But as you know, too much comfort is toxic. And I would say that too much discomfort is also toxic. So if we swing far the other direction where maybe we leap wildly before we look, we could be creating a lot of discomfort in our lives because it's too much at once. So I think the key here is to find the balance and really find our own unique edge. So for you to look at your life and figure out, where is that balance in my life between too much comfort and wild discomfort, wild and sudden discomfort, and find that edge. Find the edge of your limits. We have to figure out what we are ready to stretch for. And so I think that's the way that I think about edges and personal development is, if there's an area of your life you want to improve, finding that area of your life or that goal that feels like it's sitting just at the edge or just over what feels attainable right now. And identifying something that you would have to stretch for, you would have to stretch outside of your comfort zone in order to achieve that thing. That is a good place to start. I think there are a lot of things that are really close and easy and we can grab those things, but they don't get us out of our comfort zone, and they usually don't provide as much gratification. So your desires, the things you really want, you're going to have to stretch out of your comfort zone for. So I thought I'd share a few things that I've done over the years that were out of my comfort zone. I'm sure you have your own list. I think that I am one of those people that is uncomfortable if I'm not stretching outside of my comfort zone. So again, it's always about each of us finding that balance. But I've done quite a few things in my life that have been outside of my comfort zone. I'm not going to share them all, but I'll share a few of them. So when I was 18, I went into the Marine Corps. That was out of my comfort zone. And looking back, I think I did it because I wanted more and I really craved growth. I think at the time I thought I wanted adventure, I wanted to travel. That's what I told myself. And that was a piece of it. But I think what I was really craving was just more. And I didn't know what more was yet because I was 18, but I just knew I wanted more for my life. And I craved the growth that I knew would be inevitable by putting myself in a situation where I would be forced to grow, adapt, become stronger to survive. So it was almost like I threw myself into that situation knowing I would have to become someone different to thrive in that environment. And that was something that I craved. Other things that I've done, I left a quote unquote good job after college to go to grad school. So, I had the stable job, my first stable kind of corporate job, but I was unhappy. I was uninspired. I was unchallenged, and I didn't stay very long, and I moved out of state to go to grad school. Totally different direction. Another thing I did that was out of my comfort zone was, for a while, I was an executive speaking coach. And the reason that was outside of my comfort zone was because I had never coached or trained people in the corporate world, yet alone executives and CEOs. So that was far outside of my comfort zone because I often felt like, well, who am I to lead and teach these people? That was out of my comfort zone. Starting a business in 2020, that was another one. And then leaving a job in the middle of, a couple years into my business. I was working on it on the side, but it was a very, very much on the side. It was a part-time income kind of thing. And I left that, I left a job I had at the time to pursue my business full-time. So these are just some of the things that I've done over the years that have taken me outside of my comfort zone. But I know what was driving me out of my comfort zone was this desire to develop as a person. Character development is what I was desiring. Now, I did get to a certain point where I figured out what I really wanted to do with my life, what my purpose was. And then it became a little bit more guided and directed, these movements outside the comfort zone. But before I knew that, before I knew who I really was, before I kind of figured out the direction I wanted to go in my life, what I was actually passionate about, it was more so that I was pushing myself outside my comfort zone in pursuit of the character development and the growth that I knew would happen if I put myself in situations where I would be uncomfortable, situations that were foreign to me, and I trusted that I was going to become someone new in those situations. That doesn't mean that they weren't painful at times, but I trusted, or I knew I was going to be able to adapt. And that's why I know that they were at my edge. I would have to stretch for them, but they weren't so wildly out there based on my personality, skills, experience. So I'm curious, for you to think about, what is something you want that is outside of your comfort zone? What desire calls to you? I'm sure that maybe something's coming to mind for you, but if there is a desire that is calling to you, I will tell you that it's because there is a part of you that knows that you can achieve it. I don't believe we have these desires that are calling to us, and especially if it's calling to you on repeat, I don't believe we have those unless we absolutely have the power to achieve those things. So I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's solo travel. Maybe it's dating after a bad experience. Maybe that feels outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's starting a business, posting on YouTube. Maybe you want to go try stand-up. Maybe there's some way you want to reinvent yourself this year. Maybe it's making new friends or deciding you want to give sobriety a try, moving to a new city. Maybe it's going after a promotion or a leadership position at work. Maybe in some way you know you want to put yourself out there, whatever it is for you. This would be different for everybody. I want to tell you and remind you that the desires you have, whatever is coming to mind for you, it lives outside your comfort zone. But the gains, the rewards, what you stand to benefit also is outside your comfort zone. So it's not just the pain or the risk of stepping outside your comfort zone. You have everything to gain by stepping outside your comfort zone. And I want to tell you a little bit about life outside the comfort zone, especially if you're someone who maybe you haven't taken a step outside your comfort zone lately. Maybe you never have. Maybe you've been living kind of on autopilot or, playing it safe for a long time. I want to share a little bit about what you can expect outside the comfort zone based on my experience. So you will feel like an imposter sometimes. There are no imposters in the comfort zone. What do I mean by that? If you're playing it safe in life and in life in general, certain areas of your life, you're probably not going to feel like an imposter or a fraud. But if you decide to step out, to stretch beyond your comfort zone, you will have those feelings because you're reaching for something new, something that is foreign to you. And also, you're likely reaching for an identity around that thing that you don't fully believe yet. So going back to the example I gave earlier about becoming an executive speaking coach, I would say communication was always a strength of mine. When I was in the military, I did a lot of public speaking. But beyond that, I didn't have any other professional experience as a speaker or even as a trainer. And I got a role as an executive speaking coach where I was leading a training, teaching leaders how to speak, how to have leadership presence, how to communicate better, how to be more persuasive, all of those things. But at the time, it was a stretch for me. And at times, I really did feel like an imposter. I was younger then than I am now. Most of my clients were a bit older than me. They had gone up through the ranks, up through the corporate ladder, and a lot of them were, mid to upper level management. And so I was younger, I didn't have corporate experience hardly, and I was teaching and leading people. But what I learned in that situation that has really stuck with me and will forever is that I was not the only one that was experiencing imposter syndrome. In fact, that was something I really took note of in that job. Was a lot of times when I would have the phone consultations with my prospective clients who wanted to come take the program, they would share with me in confidence that they felt imposter syndrome. So some of them, maybe it was that they were newly promoted and now they realized they needed to gain more confidence and be a better public speaker. And that came with its own imposter syndrome. Some of them, it was just the position itself. I think public speaking lends itself to some of that. What makes me credible? What makes me qualified to talk about this? That can bring those feelings up. But what I learned from that was that anyone who is outside of their comfort zone pursuing their goals or their dreams is going to feel like an imposter or a fraud sometimes. Now, I don't feel like that all the time. I don't think my clients feel like that all the time. Excuse me. But it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory of a person who is stepping outside their comfort zone in pursuit of something that means something to them. And the more it means to you, the more it's going to require you to stretch and grow to have it. Funny how the universe works like that. Something else I want to share. Your desire for what you want and why you want it will have to be stronger than your need for certainty. I'm going to say that again. Your desire for what you want and why you want it will have to be stronger than your need for certainty. You could also plug in words stronger than your need for certainty, your need for safety, your need for predictability, your need for guarantees, fill in the blank. But they're kind of similar feelings, right? So you will have to leverage your desire. When I asked you what is something you want that is outside of your comfort zone, something you would have to reach for, stretch for, chances are there is another side of that coin. There's a discomfort that's going to come with that. And it might be fear of, again, the ones I spoke about at the beginning, fear of being rejected, fear of being found out, fear of being a failure. The list goes on and on. You will have to contend with those feelings. It comes with the territory. But again, your desire for what you want, you will have to make that stronger. It will have to be stronger and become stronger than the limiting fears and emotions. So something else I want to tell you about your life outside the comfort zone, what you can expect, is that you will feel urges to run back to safety. This is inevitable. You've stepped out of the safe zone in pursuit of something you actually want, in pursuit of a version of yourself that excites you in some way, and something will come up that makes you question that. It is inevitable. You will have urges at times to run back to safety. But I encourage you to hold your ground. If you made the commitment and you decided, okay, this year I'm going after this. This year I'm going to give this a shot. Whatever it is, allow yourself to appreciate the discomfort. It means you're doing something right. And hold your ground. Feel it, but that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Another one I want to tell you is if you're outside of the comfort zone, you're pursuing something, don't look for the rules. There aren't any. The further you get out, and I'm telling you, the further you get out in your comfort zone in pursuit of something you really want, the less rules there are going to be, because it's going to become up to you to create the rules. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I started my coaching business in 2020, I had seen what other people were doing in different niches, maybe leadership coaches, life coaches, because I've done a few different types of coaching. But what I learned was I had to decide what was right for me. I had to make the rules in my business. You know, when it comes to doing consulting work with clients, I had to decide what to teach people, what was important, what leadership skills they needed to learn, what mindset shifts they needed to make. So those were some of the rules that I needed to be the one and give myself the credibility and say, I do know, and I had to make the rules. This can be a scary place when we're so used to other people telling us what it is, setting the boundaries, setting the guidelines, setting the rules. And the further you get out there and the further you step outside your comfort zone, especially when you're leading in some way, maybe you're leading as a teacher, a coach, a thought leader, whatever it may be, you're going to be having to come up with the rules versus looking for other people to define the rules and limits. I remember having a conversation a few years ago with a friend of mine who at the time I think was also starting a business. I think it was a family business, but he works in IT. I wish I could explain more about what he does because I honestly couldn't tell you. But I remember us walking and having this conversation about what it's like to kind of be kind of on the leading edge of creating a business, and how for other people there's the lines on the road. You know, when you walk down on a highway and there's the little dotted lines that show you where to go. The road shows you where to go. And the difference sometimes of being an entrepreneur is that you're creating the road for yourself. You're creating the lane for yourself. And it can feel uncomfortable because sometimes you might have those feelings of, well, who am I to say where the road is going? Who am I to say what it is? But I think if you're a conscientious person, you will have some of those feelings. If you're not, and you're just total egotistical narcissist, you probably never have a thought like that. But I think if you're a conscientious person, you may sometimes have those feelings of, well, am I going the right way? Should I have this much power? Should I have this much responsibility? But this is really about, whether it's about entrepreneurship or any other step outside your comfort zone, this is about paving your own path, and maybe you're creating a path that doesn't even currently exist. I think the more you get outside your comfort zone, the more likely you're going to be forging a new path that doesn't even exist right now. And that can be scary. It can be scary. So a couple other things I want to share with you about life outside the comfort zone is that you will have to be willing to look foolish. And it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's, going back to some of my examples, maybe it's you want to get up on a stage and do stand-up comedy. Maybe you want to post videos on YouTube. Maybe you want to apply for a leadership position at work, but you've never been in a leadership position. You have to be willing to look foolish when it comes to going after what you really want. You have to be able to stop caring what other people think and focus on what you think about yourself more than anything else. And then the other one I want to talk about is that you will have to believe in something you can't see yet. What I mean by this is you will have to believe in something that you don't necessarily have evidence of yet. So maybe it's, like I said, any of those examples I gave, something you want to pursue in relationships, in your career, starting a business, whatever it is. If it's new to you, you're going to have to believe in it before you see it, before you see the evidence. And this is hard for us as humans because a lot of times we want to see evidence before we take any risks. We want to see evidence that we will be successful. We want to see evidence that other people will like us, whatever it is. But you will have to believe in it first. You'll have to believe in it before you can see it. So you have to believe in it and then you will see it. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about your wins and losses outside the comfort zone. So what do you stand to lose outside of your comfort zone? I'll tell you right now that what you're going to lose is your old self. Once you start moving more and more and more outside of your comfort zone, you are going to become someone you hardly recognize. You are going to lose your old self. And I love this analogy someone shared with me that stuck with me, was that it's almost like a tube of toothpaste. And once you squeeze that tube of toothpaste out, it can never go back into the container. Another way of thinking about this is once you invest in yourself, your growth, your confidence, your self-belief, your power, your light is going to get bigger and brighter. And you will no longer be able to fit in places that you lived in the past. You will outgrow people, jobs, relationships, ideas of yourself. You will outgrow those and you won't be able to go back. And sometimes this can be scary, but it also ensures that you continue moving forward, because when you realize that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, you can't fit in a box that you've outgrown, you will realize that the only place you have to go is forward, onward, upward, which means more growth and probably more moves outside of your comfort zone. This is a gift though, because it's almost like you crossed the bridge and you burned it behind you. You won't be able to go back. So that's what you lost, is your old self. And then let's talk about the wins, if they aren't already so obvious. Let's talk about the wins. You will create a version of yourself that you hardly recognize. That's a win. Imagine creating this version of yourself, this confident, self-worthy version of yourself that believes you are unstoppable, is achieving new goals that you didn't even believe you had in you. Imagine how it would feel to be that person. Imagine to wake up a year from now, 5 years from now, and hardly recognize yourself because you and the life around you is so different. This has been happening to me. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in another year, another 5 years. But when you commit to pushing yourself, to stretching, this is what's going to happen. You'll hardly recognize yourself. And it'll get to a point where you kind of forgot what life was like before. It's this weird, it kind of goes both ways. It's like you'll hardly recognize yourself sometimes, but then you may get to a point where there's versions of you that were just dead so long ago that you kind of forgot what life was like before that. Another win is who you become in the process. Very similar. Another way of saying it. Who you become in the process, taking one leap after another and betting on yourself. I just want to go about this one another way. When you have the courage to show up as your true self, be honest with yourself, be honest about who you are, what you really want out of life, and commit to pursuing it, who you become in the process is going to be so empowering and so beautiful. And it's more important, who you become in the process, that character development, that growth, that self-worth, that self-confidence, that light, that is going to be more valuable than any of the goals you were trying to achieve in the first place. So who you become in the process is going to be the bigger win than whatever prize you win achieving your goal. And then one more big win for living life outside your comfort zone is that you will be more resilient than ever, and your capacity for both risk and reward will increase. It will expand. So maybe, I look at myself 5 years ago, what my capacity for risk, I've always been a risk taker, but five years ago, my capacity for risk, maybe it was at like a 5 for my scale. So then my reward was at a 5 as well. When I bump my risk up to a 7, my reward is up to a 7 as well. So when you allow yourself to grow outside of your bubble, grow beyond your comfort zone, your capacity for risk, what your resilience, your capacity in your nervous system to take on bigger risks, to stray further from safety, that will increase, but the reward will increase along with it. So I hope that today's episode has left you with some inspiration, some encouragement, and some value as you think about the life that you're creating for yourself and the moves you want to make this year to step outside your comfort zone and be more of your true and authentic self. I'll see you next time.